Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's YouTube vlog from Barton All Burner Services, and we're back. It's 2024 and Happy New Year everybody. So I hope you all had a good Christmas period and a nice break. I hope you didn't all work too hard. I should imagine some of you had the whole week off. I'd imagine some of you worked a little bit. Us personally, to be honest, we went out every single day except for Christmas Day. I did have a couple of calls, but I didn't have to go out. But between Christmas and New Year, yeah, we were out literally every day doing breakdowns. But it's fine, to be honest, I don't mind keeping my hand in. Anyway, on to this week's vlog. It is going to be, yeah, someone very important customer to us. It's my parents. I'm going to be servicing their Aqua flame boiler. And the reason why it is so important is, one, it's the parents, and two, it was actually the founder of Barton All Burner Services, my dad. Okay, so when I leave, probably I'll have a good look over it to make sure I know what I'm doing after 17 years. But there we go. It's an Aqua flame boiler. Really, really good boiler. Good boiler now, good boiler in its day. Fantastic. It's over 20-year-old. I would imagine it's just under 30 years old. Okay, but they are bulletproof. There's not that many in this area anymore because people have taken them out and put condensing boilers in, I suppose, etc. And I wouldn't think you've all heard of them. As you'll see when I'm doing the vlog, it's a brilliant little boiler. Really straightforward. Takes slightly longer to service than some other older style non-condensing boilers, but still a really, really good boiler. And as I say, haven't seen one leak, so there you go, pretty good to me. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Correction, that's what I've done yesterday, because I actually done it yesterday. As a bonus for you, because it's our first one back for 2024, we thought we'd do a little extra episode, which is out tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, Saturday, 6 p.m. And it's going to be a breakdown on a Grant combi boiler. I can't really tell you what it's about at the moment because it's 7:30 in the morning currently, and I'm going to go there a bit later on this afternoon. So yeah, you'll find that out on Saturday at 6 p.m. So, hope you enjoy this week's YouTube vlog, and let's just get on with it. So, as always, over to the vlog. So here we go, an Aqua flame boiler. Don't know if anyone's seen one of these before, but here we go, it's what it looks like. So with these, just got the three lights here, power, lockout and high limit, which is nice and straightforward. It is isolated. The customer has turned it off, but as we all know, he was in the trade anyway. Okay, so we just take the two magnetic, hey, don't get out anymore, do you? The two magnetic parts off there, which go around the flue. And then we lift this part up here, and that pops off, and we drop it down. And then we just pop the top off. Number one, and then the front pops off. Get hold of the middle on these, pull very gently, and then take it off. Otherwise, these bend like anything. Bottom out. That's basically all the casing parts off the boiler. I've got myself sorted out and ready to go. Gloves, etc, etc. Kit's over there. Coffee, well done mother. Look at this, sausage rolls on her best plate as well, love it. And very clearly Hoover on my tools there. So first things first, safe isolation. As I say, it is turned off there. However, we will still turn it off with the burner just here. Okay, just in case it gets knocked. Isolated, marvellous. Okay, this air snorkel hose is not a balanced flue hose, as you can see. You can run them without, but this, believe it or not, let me just go back a bit, that goes up there, down and over, actually quietens the boiler down a little bit. If I was to leave that off, it would sound terrible. So that's why they're put on there. On here we have a Sterling burner, a really good burner. Basically 2 Allen keys takes the whole thing to pieces. So I'll be going through that shortly. It's got quite a modern flexible oil line on here, which again I'll be checking shortly. As you can see, there's fire protection there, which is brilliant. I've got an isolation valve there, which is also good. The flue, I'll check more in a minute, but I know it's okay, to be honest, because I look at it every single time I come here. And on this Aqua flame, here we go. It's a top servicing boiler. So I'm just now going to renew 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take these two brackets off here, and I'm going to lift the combustion lid off, and I'll be back to you. Just before I take the lid off, there is something quite important. Okay, it just slipped from me not telling you. Hoover, get your Hoover, get a brush, brush all this off first. Give it a good clean all the way around here, okay? Because if you do that and then you take the lid off, it doesn't make a mess. All right, so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing first. Dedusted. So if you can hear a dog in the background, it's absolutely ginormous. It's a St. Bernard, I think it is, next door, and it wants to, well, not eat you, but it's a bit big. Okay, so let's get these off. 1, 2. Don't forget the washers. There we go. This would be a bit different. If you've never seen an Aqua flame, it's a little bit different to normal. Let me just move this. Move this. Right, here we go. Lift nice and gently. Give it a little wiggle and lift up. Voila. Okay, that is the baffles. So you've probably not seen anything like this before. I know loads of you probably know Aqua flames, but there's many that probably hasn't. So like normal, you've got your combustion chamber lid there. This is all nice. This is just dashboard, and as you can see, it's got a lovely seal in it, which it would have because my dad would have done it probably last time. Right, so on there it goes. So you have a series of holes here. So clearly the flame comes through the bottom, it comes up, comes through these tubes, goes under here and up out the flue. That's how it works. Lots of different outputs. Some have more tubes. You'll see that these ones here are all big tubes. These two are tiny tubes. Some models, bigger models, have a lot more smaller tubes or some bigger tubes. And this one here is actually been blanked off here. Sometimes that's open and got a tube in it. Right, so that's how they work it all out anyway. So I've got to give this a good clean here. These tubes do actually come out. Lift and pull, and as you can see, they have dirt on them. Okay, these used to get stuck in. Yeah, if you look on the bottom now, you'll see it's been grinded sort of like at an angle, whereas it's just a weld before and it would get stuck, and this actual baffle would get stuck in. Then there's a hole there. So I now need to clean all of this, and then I'll get the burner out first to get my hoover in there, and we'll go from there. We're now going to take the tubes out. So here we go. Put them into a bucket. You don't wash these like a condensing boiler, because obviously if you wash them, they'll go gooey. I'll be cleaning them in a minute. Move that out of the way. Just remember where these two go, because they're the smaller ones. So these are going in the front in this case. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly remove them. Now sometimes they get stuck because they're dirty. They're quite straightforward to clean afterwards. Oh, that one's a bit dirty, look. Always look with these as well. If you ever get one of these, it's wet. Okay, and the boiler's been on that morning. The likelihood is the boiler's got a leak in the jacket. Let's pull this back here. And there we go. Okay, so here we have the holes here. Okay, I've now got to clean them, which is quite hard. You can't just brush them out because there's a lot of dirt in them. If you see what you've got in here, which is stained, it's the same in there, big lumps of carbon. So the first thing I'm going to do is in here, I'm going to stick the hoover in. I'm not going to fire it up at the moment because clearly I'm going to explain what I'm doing before I do it. I'm going to stick it in there. Then I'm going to turn it on. And then on here, my dad invented it, if you want to call it that. Okay, it's like an old brush. As you can see, the rod of a brush on my drill, and he's basically bent the ends. You put it in here like so, and then you do this. Like so. Okay? That cleans them up fantastic. You see a tiny bit of dust coming. That's why I've got to put the hoover on. Okay, so that's how you clean them. So if I do a little demo now. Hoover's on. Put that in there. Basically go at the top, down slowly, you're here, it's there, that's where it's stuck at the bottom, and we're through, okay? That is now clear, here it comes. Okay, nice and clean compared to the other one. I'm now going to repeat that with all the others, and then I'll come back to you. just want to bring your attention to something. As you can see, all the holes are now clear. I've now cleaned this as well. Just need to wire brush it. People think that's it, but they forget about under here, because with all the dirt that comes from the flue down to here, it then ends up basically dirt under there. So if I just put my hand here, you will see, or a screwdriver, see, there's all the dirt there. So you must make sure that you clean under there as well, because if you don't, then clearly you're not doing your job properly. And it's quite stiff under here, so if I keep going at it, it does get really carboned up. There you go, look. Okay, don't worry that I'm dropping it through, because it's just going to the bottom of the boiler. Okay, so there's loads of it. And people always miss that. So you think it's clear on here, okay, because it's all nice and clean and you finish your job, but you haven't. Because imagine you've got the combustion pressure coming up here from underneath the bottom, burner, up, bang, up here. It's got to go through here. There's not much of a gap between here and between the flue, 4-inch flue, not big flue. So obviously, yeah, you've got to make sure that area is clear. So I'm going to give that a really, really good clean now, as you can see. And that'd be immaculate. Because if it's not, when it fires, it go woo, woo, woo. It would just rattle to fire. And another thing, you always know if you've done it right or not when you service them, because when you've got all this bit clean, because you've been mashing here, you loosen it under here. So when you fire it, you hear all the rubbish going up and down the flue. So that's really like top tip of the day, so to speak. You've got to get it clear under here. Okay, so I'm going to finish that off now. And then as you can see, you can't clean any more up here once it's done, because this is the solid lump apart from the holes, and clearly I can't get my hand in there. So we're going to have to come down here. You can get your hand through here easy with a hoover hose. I'll get my hand in there now with a wire brush. I'll wire brush all in there, and then I will obviously hoover out the bottom. Being a bit careful in the bottom, okay, because it's just like ashboard in the bottom. And as they get older, it doesn't break up, but it gets a bit softer. So very clearly I need to make sure I don't break this up, because this boiler is a pretty old boiler, like 29 years old. So yeah, I've got to treat this one with kid gloves. If we also look on here, the writing on here, can't quite see it, R. Butler. That's my dad, he commissioned that. He wrote all that on there all them years ago. Madness, isn't it? 29 years later, it's me doing it, because he can't be bothered. There we go. He'll be seeing this later on the video, so he'll probably tell me off for that, but there we go. Right, okay, I'm going to crack on. I'll get back to you. That is clean in there now, and that's obviously clean there as well and all done. So we're on to these, the main baffles. These are quite straightforward. All you literally have to do is scrape them. Scrape all the dirt off. Look, there's not that much on there, look. And then wire brush them clean. And then, most importantly, turn them upside down and tap them, because there's a hole in there. So that is it. Just clean them one at a time, and I'll be putting them back in again. It'll take me about 15 minutes, this. So yeah, so far I've been here about 40 minutes, so it's about right for timing, because these do take a bit longer than your average boiler to do. So it's all back together now. Just pin your attention, these go in any position, as long as you've got the small ones at the front and the large ones behind. However, when you put these in, if you look, it's loose there, it doesn't sit very well. You've got to keep spinning them round. See, that's wrong. Yeah, got it. Okay, you've got to have them, so it's, because it's just basically a bit of metal, that wire that pops through. You've got to have it so they sit firmly down. If they rattle around when the boiler fires, you guessed it, you get this jingling rattle inside, and it sends customers crazy, so we end up coming back again. So you've got to make sure you get them in there. So yes, they don't all end up like a Grant, the tubular's all nice and straight, and that's how it is. But at least it's not going to rattle, and it's going to be fine. So I'm just going to finish cleaning this. I'm going to pop it back on here like so, and then I'm going to put the brackets back on, the washers and the wing nuts, and I'll be back. It'll be time to do the burner. One Sterling burner, here we go. So I've pulled it out, turned it over. The first thing I notice is the nozzle's a bit dirty, okay? See them two little marks there? It's because them electrodes are either worn slightly, or they're very, very slightly too low, and that's what's made the two grooves that essentially then can ruin the nozzle sometimes. But in this case, we've got away with it. So as I was saying earlier, it's a clever burner. It just basically takes 2 Allen keys to take it all to pieces. So most people, when they do the nozzles on these, they forget themselves and they undo the there and the Allen key there. And then they pull the blast tube off and you come to the nozzle. Then you take the motor off, then you take the pump off, etc, etc. But these are quite clever. I'll show you. So we're just going to get this out of the way. This is just a cover that shows you it's got the air adjustment behind it. There we go, just one air adjuster here. There's your photocell there, a normal MZ cell, and behind this one sort of adjusts your nozzle depth and stuff like that, so leave that one well alone. So we're just going to undo this one. This is the most important one. Here we go. These don't have to be done up tight, just nipped when you do them back up, and I recommend that you put a little piece of copper grease on them, because you're basically putting stainless steel into aluminium, so they can basically corrode and then you can't undo them the next year. So I've undone that. We're now going to spin it over, and this is what I love about the Sterling. We give it a tap and we lift. Ta-da! It's all there. Okay, brilliant, magic. There's your lump. Right, so there now you can see the pump is dry. You can see the fan is clear. You can get to the nozzle, you can see the electrodes, you can see everything. I am going to strip this down a step further, because I actually do want to check the drive coupling. I can grip it and it feels okay, but you can't really easily see the D section that's on the front of the coupling there. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. There's the plug. It was in properly. I nipped it first before I started recording to make life a bit easier. Okay, out the way. If I spin it over on its end, there you see your EBI transformer there. Okay, this is very similar to a burner I done the other day on a Wallstar, same burner. And if you remember, I explained to you about control boxes, Sotronic control boxes, and an 832.3 is for a twin coil. However, this has got a single coil on it. The reason this is on here, not because we've got it wrong, not for any other reason. We quite often use this as a test boiler, and we've obviously plugged this on at some stage in the past, thinking it may be faulty, but clearly it's not, because it's still on. Okay, so somewhere beside this boiler, I would imagine, is the original one for the boiler, but it's on there anyway. So yeah, we do use this for other stuff sometimes. So I'm just going to spin it over. Had a set of bearings in it, look, June 09, there you go. We're going to undo the Allen key here, and then that will just pop out. Motor out. Drive coupling. It's quite a long drive coupling on these. So this is the D I was talking about, as you can see. Now if you look in the bottom of it, okay, you're looking for a mark. If the mark covers more than half, get that in focus, of half of the flat part of the D shape, you need to chuck it in the bin. You can put the individual parts on, but it's cheaper just to buy a whole coupling. The other thing as well, to see if it's hard, sometimes they go hard, and even though it still works, when they're hard, it makes the burner noisy, and people wonder what's going on with the burner. They think bearings, but it's not, it's actually this. It makes a very obscure noise. But in this case, as you can see, it's very, very supple. Okay, all of it. The other thing to look at is here. Okay, this is obviously what grips your coupling in here, and squeeze it. And as you can see, it's lovely. It's not separating, it's not perished. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. So that is okay. The other end of here is on the pump. I have checked that and put it back, but forgot to video it. And I've also spun this pump to make sure there's no high points in it or anything like that. And that's absolutely fine. Now back to the motor. Spin. Quiet as a mouse. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the motor over. I'm going to disconnect the capacitor with the two wires here. And I'm going to put meter over them and check the capacitor. Most of the time on a Sterling, it has a 3.5 UF capacitor on. Very occasionally, I will see a 4 UF. In this case, it is a 4 UF capacitor. I've put my two leads on it, as you can see. And there we go, 3.972 microfarads. That's fine, that is a pass. So I'm just going to put the motor back together, i.e. put the leads back on the capacitor and pop it back in the bodywork again, and I'll be back. That's all back in, and as you can see, I've had a clean as well. So I've jumped forward slightly here. I've cleaned all the fan, I've spun it, I've double checked it, I've double checked the pump. I've had a good clean inside here. I'm not, you know, obviously brush, hoover, etc. I'm not going to repeat what I've done before in every video. People should understand the idea now that when you're servicing, you clean everything. So that's why I've done it. It's all nice and clean inside there. But another variation in the burner, you have the transformer. I touched on the transformer again on my last vlog on a wall star, when I was on about there should be an earth in the lead, on the middle of the lead, on the later transformers. So this transformer works. It's the UBI transformer. As you can see, it's only got the 2 pins, it's missing the earth. But on here, it's only got the 2 pins inside there. So clearly, it's fine. But if we was to put another transformer on there, we would have to change the lead as well. Just going to check the transformer, okay, in case there's anything wrong with it. The easiest way to check it is to pull the plug here. And on these, you have this tiny little piece of wire which holds it in. Now, you have to be careful because they do pop and go miles. I'm going to give it a little pop. And there it is. Okay, I'm just going to lift it. Remember how it goes in the slots each side. We're going to put that on the floor. Get it the wrong way round, it will take you forever. Okay, I'm going to put it back and I'm going to look on here. Now if I get that there, you'll see just there's a little hot spot. Okay, that's sort of okay. Okay, they tend to do that on these, but sometimes they bubble here, they crack across here, they bubble on here, and they really bubble on here. Okay, this one's fine, it's just got that tiny little hot spot, look. Okay, which is just normal, but if that was to grow, I'd be a bit more concerned. Here's your HT leads. I'm going to check them now, and I'm going to have a really good clean in here and make sure this grommet just here is in good condition. If it's not, then obviously the heat from inside the burner comes through and starts to cause damage here. We're not careful. So I'm going to clean all that, put that all back together, and then we're on to the nozzle. One nozzle. As you can see, the electrodes are there on there now. 2 ways to take the electrodes off. Number 1 is to undo there. Number 2 is to undo there. I would undo there and slide it back unless you need to adjust the position of the electrodes. If you need to adjust the position of the electrodes, you undo that one. But it's critical when you undo this, if I do it, this can then go around any direction, up and down, blah, blah, blah. If you get it, for example, here, because you've forgotten, then it won't be right on here, because that's where they've got to go through. So my suggestion to you is to put it there. It always lines up with this corner, so you know roughly anyway, okay? But that's, if you're not experienced, you don't know that, then I advise you don't touch the one here. So I'm just going to nip it up. Again, not tight, because you've basically got a stainless steel screw and an aluminium body, and if you do it up, it breaks. And I'm going to undo this one. Now some of the models, the older models, have 2 individual electrodes. This one has just got the 1 electrode block on it. Okay, and there we go. So I'm going to pull it back and I'm going to inspect it. Now I'm looking for cracks. I'm going to clean it in a minute. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, sometimes people over tighten them and they crack across here, or sometimes they just crack here and there's a little mark on them. If we look on there, the electrodes look fairly sharp. Okay, I will just double check the gapping on there, but they look quite good to me. And then I'll put them back on once I've changed the nozzle. So I'm just going to clean around here, put the nozzle in, which is a 6080ES, I think. Let's have a look. Yep, that's what the old man put. So that's what's going on there at 125 PSI, which we'll do in a minute. So I'm just going to crack on and do that, and I'll be back. Nice and shiny. So on this burner, on the Stirling burner, the electrodes finish level with the top of the nozzle. So if you look across there, yep, they're level with the top. That's how it should be. That's really important. The other thing that's very important, you have your photocell there, you can see, which I'm going to pull out in a minute. But when you put the nozzle back in, or the electrodes back in, the HT leads, if you're not careful, can cover that photocell. Make sure the leads are out the way, otherwise it's going to cause you further issues down the road. So I'm just going to clean that. I'm going to plonk that back on again. I'm going to do the bolt up once I've put a bit of grease on it. Okay, and then I'll be back. Okay, we're back together. So the bolt there that holds it all together, the long bolt, like I said, has to be greased. However, it also needs to be not too tight either. And as you can see, we're nice and clean in there. Okay, so we're going to check the photocell next. MZ photocell, they come in long and short. This has got a long one in it. A short one will work, but not as good as the long one. Stick to what should be in the burner. So we pull it out like so, and we look at the end. Now it's dirty, but it's not burnt. Okay, so we just give it a wipe and feel. As you can see, it's cleaning now, and I'll give it a squeeze to make sure it hasn't gone hard and brittle, and it hasn't. So I'm going to give that a good clean now, push it back. I'm going to plonk the burner in, and we'll be ready to fire her up. Just one last thing, oil lines. I think I've come across this with you before. When you do an oil line, have a good look around it and squeeze them to make sure they're not perished. I have just checked this one, it's not. And another good thing to do is smell the line. You shouldn't smell anything. If you do, it's venting. You'll need to change it. So be aware of that one. If you ever go to a boiler, there's no oil in the boiler, smell the oil line, because it's probably just the oil line needs changing, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm going to put it back together, put a gauge in it, and I'll be back. We've plugged back in, we've got the air hose on, the burner's back in, gauge is in, oil's turned on, it's set on PSI. It should be 125, let's just see what happens. So, this is just pre-purge. Very slightly high, 127.4, it should be 125. There we go, as it fires, I knew that would settle down slightly. Okay, so it's sitting at the 125 mark. The point bit where it's flicking up and down, I tend to ignore within reason because it's very sensitive, this gauge. So as you can see, that's absolutely bang on. Okay, so we'll take it. If you do need to adjust it, then it's just there. In increases the pressure, out decreases the pressure. But that should be done by trained professionals only. Okay? Because if it's not, and you do it wrong, it will set the boiler up. So, there we go. I'm now going to warm the boiler up for about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, because they'll take a while. Get it up to a good operating temperature, and then I'll stick my machine in. I'm expecting to get it at figures of about 10.5% and get it sort of 180 to 200 degrees, depending on how long it's running for and where we're at. So that's what I'm going to try and achieve. It's been running about 20 minutes. Kit goes in there. When you have the kit, as you know, the end or the tip should sit in about the middle of the flue. Okay, everything's running absolutely fine. The gauge is still fine there, that's fine, and we're here. So we haven't quite got the operating temperatures we need at the moment. We're still on 165.67. I need to get to about 180, so I'll be waiting a bit longer, but we have got it bang on 10.5 at the moment, which is exactly what I want. However, by the time it gets up to 180, it's probably be raised to 10.6, so I will back it off a little bit. Ignore the efficiency, that's net efficiency. I've just sent this kit away. In this trade we work in gross. So gross efficiency will be about 82-83%. Okay, so that's just how we work anyway. Alright, so yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to wait a bit longer. I'm going to have a good clear up. I need to go to the oil tank. You've seen me look at oil tanks before. I'm not going to repeat what I've done before. To say the idea of this channel is to try and basically do something different every time and try not to repeat myself. Okay, so yeah, that is it. This is this Aqua Flame Evo service. It's a Evo Gem 65. Yeah, really happy with it, and hopefully my mum and dad will be very happy with me as well. The good news is they made me another coffee, so I must have been here a long time, but there we go. So all done for now. So that's it, everyone. Another service done. The Aqua Flame Evo boiler. Yeah, happy with that. Happy parents, which is the most important thing. And I hope you guys out there have learned a little bit on this one. If you haven't seen one before, see what they're all about, etc. And I hope most importantly that you enjoyed the vlog. So stay tuned tomorrow, Saturday, 6 PM, as I said. We have got an extra one as it's a new year just for you. And apart from that, everyone have a great weekend. And most importantly, stay safe.